Introduction of myself, Niranjan Rautre, continuing as reader in Banki Autonomous College. So I think we have 13 of us we have joined. So parasitology, it is a study about parasites. And parasites have evolved along with all other animals that provide them the host, that behave as the host. So initially with the evolution, all were free living animals. But the parasite have originated, it is an accidental origin. When they have come in contact with suitable host, they have adapted to this host genetically, morphologically, and for the purpose of suitable site for continuity of their species. In this topic, we'll study about the relationship that exists between the host and the parasite, how the life cycle influences the host. When there is a combination between the host and a parasite, there exists an intricate relationship between both the host and the parasites. The parasites are equally important for study because they are responsible for different diseases, and we'll study the diseases under the pathogenesis. We'll study the mode of infection, the different routes of infection, the treatment, the uh, control, and etc. In this unit 1, which deals with the uh, animal association and evolution of host parasite relationship. Association means there is a association between the host and the parasite. And this association has led to the evolution of a intricate, close relationship between the host and the parasite. Now, there is a need of the parasitism because, as I have told you, that is an accidental relationship has occurred, and the parasite have come across a medium, come across a suitable habitat where it got the nutrition, where it got the protectiveness, and a suitable region or place where they can breed continuously, where they can continue their offsprings. Now, regarding parasites, so we can describe the parasite under different headings. So parasites are the organism which use another body to for their life cycle, to continue their life cycle, to complete their life cycle, and their nourishment as continuity, sustainability. So on the basis of habitat, they are ectoparasite. You are all aware of what is ectoparasite. They live outside the body. Endoparasite, they live within the body. Ectoparasite, they are ticks, lice, fleas. And endoparasites, they are divided on the basis of their position within the animal body. They may be intracellular within the cell. As you know, the best example of this parasite is Plasmodium, which is the causative organism for malaria. Then intercellular, they live within the cavities, but outside, you can say they live outside the cell. Intercellular. Accidental parasites, intercellular parasite, you can say they live in the cavities, they live in the bile capillaries, for example, the fascicular hepatica, the tinea solium, they live within the gut of the animal. Then accidental parasites are those parasites which have come across, but usually they come across to live uh, in another animal body, in addition to some other a definite body. They're called accidental. Then erratic or wandering parasite. These wandering parasites, they are due to their erratic behavior. Sometimes they may wander about and reach some other parts where they are not uh, s- uh, license to dwell. For example, the ascaris larval stage, they may visit through the circulation. Along with the circulation, they wander and may reach the kidney and lung, where they may cause certain type of devastation. So these, in this stage, they are called the wandering parasites. Now, on the basis of the host dependence, how much they depend upon the host, they are obligatory parasites. As you know, they are permanent parasites. They cannot live without a host. They have to depend upon the host. Plasmodium is the best example because outside they cannot sustain. Then facultative or temporary, they invade the host, both capable of independent life. So facultative, temporary. If they get an opportunity, they will have an parasitic mode of life, or they can also live as an independent outside a host. So they are called facultative, or they are temporary parasites. The best example is strongyloids, stercoralis, on the basis of pathogenicity. What is pathogenicity? What is the amount of the disease they cause? That is called the pathogenicity. What type of disease they cause? What are the destruction they bring about? That is called pathogen. They have some pathogenic influence. So on this basis, if they are pathogenic, which cause disease, have some symptoms, bring about some sufferings in the animal body, in the host body, they are called pathogenic parasite. Example is Plasmodium. Example is Entamoeba histolytica. As you know, they are causative organism for the dysentery, amoebic dysentery. Next is the opportunistic. They are non-pathogenic in nature, and uh, they don't cause any disease. They are opportunistic uh, parasites. Then non-pathogenic or commensal. They are They do not harm the host. They are non-pathogenic, but dwell in the host. They live outside the body or even inside the body. They don't cause any harm. Entamoeba coli, Escherichia coli, in human being, they are responsible. They are not. They don't bring about any harm. Rather, they have certain role to play in the metabolism of the inside the human body. Then ticks and fleas, they are present in the dog. They don't cause any harm, so they are commensal. That means they associate. There is an association between these parasites, ectoparasites, and with the host body. And the next is the host specificity. The host specificity means they are specific for a host. If the host is absent, they cannot sustain, they cannot live. So host specificity, they include the host specific parasites and the non-host specific parasite. Host specific parasite, they show certain preference to the host. For example, the Plasmodium vivax, the host, since it is a digenetic parasite, they have a specific host. Without uh, mosquito, they cannot be transferred, and they cannot multiply uh, without a vertebrate host. They need a cold-blooded animal, intermediary host. So they have the definite host, Plasmodium, and some, suppose Ascaris, they have a definite host. Then non-host specific, they do not show any preference to a host. They have a large number of hosts. For example, the mosquito, they don't prefer to have a blood meal from the human being. Rather, they can have their meal from any animal, any from many animals, including the mammals, the birds, the reptiles, everything. Then, for example, please recall the larval stage in case of Fasciola hepatica. That is Miracidium larva, the first larval stage. It does it As we have studied that Limnia peregra is the host, the secondary host, but it can also invade other species of the same genus. So they are called non-host specific parasites. Now we will move on to the host Type of host. So, host, what is the basic definition of host? Host are the animals that are responsible to harbor the parasites. They harbor the parasites. The host, on the basis of uh, different stages of the parasite, on the basis of different stages of parasite development, we can describe the host as definitive host or primary host. Suppose primary host is the host who harbors the adult stage of the parasite. They are the definitive host, they are the primary host. Then intermediate host. Intermediate host are the they usually harbor the larval stages of the parasite. For example, Tinea solium, they are the primary or definitive host is the man, human being. Then for the same parasite, pig is the intermediate host, and it is called because it harbors the larval stage. Then supplementary host. Suppose in addition, in multigenetic parasites, in addition to the intermediate host, there is a second intermediate host. In this case, we say the second intermediate host is the supplementary host. It supplements, it is an additional host. It acts as an additional animal for the completion of the life cycle. Then, paratin, they are the transport host. They are responsible to spread the parasite. They act as a temporary vehicle to enable them to reach their definite host. And these vehicles are responsible for the transport of the parasites. For example, nematode parasites. These nematode parasites, they are uh, these transport hosts. They spread the parasite. Uh, for example, the housefly. It is a host. Is a mechanical vector. It transport the parasites, temporary vehicle to enable them to reach the definite host. Then reservoir where in the animal which harbors the adult stage, and from where the vectors or the vehicles they will transmit the diseases, spread the diseases to other organisms, to other animals. They are called the reservoirs. Now, on the basis of condition for parasitic development, now host, they are responsible. They will provide a condition for the development of the parasite, for the continuity of the life cycle of the parasite. On that basis, we have obligatory parasites, we have obligatory host, facultative host, and the potential host. Obligatory host, they provide the maximum, optimum condition for the development of the parasite. For example, man. Man is the final stage or the
Sir, are you sharing any
this
screen? We are not able to see the screen. We only hear your sound and face.
do you have the your material?
Okay.
No, do you have the material?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, you can raise your hand, or I will give some time for you to bring out your any doubts you have. So let me complete this host, then we'll go for the discussion. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Or else you can raise your hand so that we can you can pause for some time for to redress your any doubts. So obligatory host, facultative host, potential host. Obligatory host, as you know, they provide the best condition for the development. Without these obligatory hosts, the parasite cannot survive. They cannot sustain. Then facultative host, they do not provide any conditions for the development. Best condition they don't provide, although they can sustain, the parasite can sustain. And the potential host, they don't have any biosynthesis potential. What is biosynthesis? When there is association between different organism, and they integrate into a community. In obligatory, in facultative, there exists a biosynesis. So potential host, they do not have the biosynetic ties, biosynetic responsibility, biosynetic ties with the parasite, but they provide some amount of optimal conditions for the parasitic development. For example, the herbivores, they can act as the potential host for Trichinella spiralis. Trichinella spiralis is a nematode. Usually, they prefer the carnivore for their completion of the life cycle. But herbivores can also allow them to complete their life cycle. Now, on the basis of transmission agents, agents are required for the transmission, and these agents may be vectors. They are also called vectors. So true vectors or the biological vectors, the vectors where the organism where the parasite undergoes some degree of development or multiplication, they are called the biological or true vectors. Mechanical vectors, these vectors don't allow or they don't provide any medium to for the uh, completion or the for the some development of the parasite. Simply they transfer the parasite, they carry the parasite from to the host. For example, housefly is a mechanical vector that it does not allow the parasite which it transmits to develop or to allow for the asexual development in its body. So I think let's have some discussion. If you have any doubts, we can discuss here. Yes, Ranju.
Sir, what is the meaning of biosynotic?
Biosynthesis meaning is it is a term implied for any association between two organisms. Okay, two different organism of different species, and they form a community, the micro community, integrated community. They some degree of relationship exist. Maybe they benefit each other, they influence each other. That is called biosynosis. So in case of as I have told you that obligatory natural host, they provide the best of the biosynosis. Biosynetic ties are optimal and the best. They are more intimate. They are responsible for the complete development. Without the obligatory host, the parasite cannot sustain. And the potential host, they do not provide any biosynesis ties relationship. Am I are you clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, anyone, any other doubts, please?
Sir, what is the difference between host, vector, and carrier?
What is the difference between can you increase the volume, please? What is the pardon, please, can you repeat your question?
Sir, what is the difference between host, carrier, and vector?
Host, carrier, and vector. Okay, host, we are host as a human being, we are host for the ectoparasite as well as endoparasite. Okay, suppose one have ticks on the head, so one is a host. It provide a medium, it provide a habitat, it provide a surface for the attachment of the host, and to at least complete some amount of some degree of development or some part of the life cycle. They are called the host. For example, uh, the body, the intestine of the human being, specifically the children under the age of 15, they harbor the ascaris. They are the host. And the second is carrier. Carrier are those agents which transfer the parasite from one host to another. They are carrier. And the vector, they are also the carrier. uh, they carry either development occurs within the vector, some degree of development, or there is no development within the vector. So simply must this housefly is the carrier of the disease. It does not imply it is not a true. It does not allow the development of the parasite to. So it is not a true vector. It is a mechanical vector or a carrier. Any other doubt, please?
That means vector and carrier both are similar or different.
Vector. Carrier of a disease vector both are to I can say synonymous, but in case of vector, now suppose we learn that mosquito is the carrier of a mosquito is the vector of this disease. Okay, we don't say carrier. Mosquito is a housefly is the carrier of the disease. Okay, am I right? So basically, vector we will use the term where some degree of development occurs inside the carrier, which act as a vector. So
Okay, sir.
carriers are vectors. All vectors are carriers, and all carriers are not vectors.
Okay, sir.
So shall we proceed onto the next topic? That is the host parasite relationship. So host parasite relationship. Without any relationship, the parasite will not sustain in the body of the host. Both influence each other for the sustainability. And this relationship is influenced due to some degree of changes in their development, and which we study under adaptation. They are adapted, particularly the parasites become adapted to the body of the host, to the microenvironment of the host. They bring about certain changes. Now we can say it is an association between two different organisms. Host may be a vertebrate, parasite may be invertebrate. So in this condition, they are symbionts. They both influence each other. Now, parasite influence the host. They rob the food. They destroy. They cause necrosis to the tissue. They cause certain diseases to occur. And how the host influences the parasite by bringing about some degree of um, immunological tolerance. They show certain immunological reaction. They show certain reaction from the body, by the blood, by the immunological system, to get away from the parasite, to get rid of the parasite. So, on this basis, let's study the relationship under different headings. Now, first thing is there is a mutualism. Now, both are symbionts, okay? Yeah, there is a symbiotic relationship. So, symbiotic relationship and the relationship which are carried on by two organisms of different classes, they are called the symbionts. They live in close proximity to each other, and sometimes, if they are internal parasite, they live within the core region of the host. They exhibit a dynamic equilibrium, and any disturbances to this dynamic equilibrium may result in the complete loss of this relationship. Either one will be harmed and may result unto the death. Sometimes the host may also uh, suffer fatally to the presence of the parasite. Now we can study this relationship with a better understanding under, suppose, mutualism. What is mutualism? It is the relationship between the symbionts, and they both are dependent upon each other. They cause no harm. So sustainability is maximum. No one harms other. They are benefited. For example, the best example we can show here, termite, the white ants, they are capable to digest the cellulose. They feed on the water, they feed on the paper, they feed on the books. They are able to digest the cellulose. And the reason is that they host they host trichonympha, the parasite which dwell in the gut of the termite. And this parasite is responsible is capable of producing some enzymes that can easily digest the cellulose. So it does not cause any harm. Termite is benefited, and the trichonympha is also benefited by getting uh, protection. Another example is E. coli. It produces the bacteriocin, and it causes no harm. They are present in our body. They cause no harm. So it is a mutualism. Both exhibit mutual benefit to each other. And the second, this mutualism, it may be obligate or facultative. When both are necessary for survival, it is a obligate. Both should be present for survival. In the usual, in the broad sense, mutualism, yes, this one may be necessary for the other. But in case of obligate mutualism, both are necessary. The best example is lichen, which is the association between algae and fungi. Here, the algae, it provides carbohydrate, and the fungi provides protection. Without carbohydrate, fungi will die, and without fungi, the lichen will also not survive. Then facultative, both are not necessary for survival. Both are not necessary for survival. A relationship as it given between the aphids and ants. The ants form the aphids. The ants form the aphids. The mutualistic facultative mutualistic relationship exists because the aphids provide them with the honeydew, and in return they get a well protective shelter against the predation. So this is a facultative, but the aphids can live independently, the ants also can live independently. So both are not necessary. This is an example for facultative mutualism. Another association is that it's a host parasite relationship, means the different types of association between the host and the parasite. Another association is commensalism. What is commensalism? In this association, one member is benefited and the other member is neither benefited nor harmed, but one is benefited. Remember, one member in this association is benefited, the other member is neither benefited nor harmed. So, example here, it is called the commensalism. Example is the flora of the human body, the normal flora of the human body. So we are benefited, but the flora is not neither benefited nor harmed. We are benefited because flora is necessary for the usual metabolism to occur, for the best digestion process to occur. These are present inside the gut. Similarly, commensalism can also be divided into ecto and the endo. So ecto, as you know, they dwell on the external surfaces, and endocommensalism, they live inside the body. So in the ectocommensalism relationship, the example is given by the barnacles, which are the arthropods, and they attach to the body of the whales to be transported to other places. They don't harm to the whales. They cause no harm to the whales, but they are benefited because they are carried from one place to another. So they are arthropods in the form that they are crustaceans. And the endocommensalism is the one example is they live within the body, and one is benefited and other is neither benefited nor. Best example is entamoeba gingivalis, which is present in the mouth or the mouth oral cavity of the humans. It feeds on the debris, the food particles, bacteria, and the worn out epithelial cells, but it has no effect on the healthy tissue of the host in which they dwell. Another association is the usual parasitism, which we are studying in this chapter. And in the parasitism, wherever there is a host and a parasite, true in the true sense, one is benefited and the other is harmed, and always the parasite is benefited, being provided with a good shelter, being provided with a ready-made food away from the predation, but the host is harmed because some changes is made to the body of the host due to the presence of the parasite. Example is tapeworm, the liver fluke. Tapeworm, they rob the pre-digested food from the human intestine and render sufferings to the body. Malarial parasite, they are responsible for causing anemia. They destroy the RBC, and they cause destruction to the spleen, to the liver. Okay, so they are true parasite. So this one such association where only one is harmed and one is benefited completely, they are called the parasitic mode of relationship, true parasitism mode of relationship. And the last one is the amensalism. What is amensalism? It is a relationship where one species is not affected and other species is completely harmed. One species is not affected and the other is completely harmed. So one suffers and one does not suffer. Example is penicillium. It is a fungus, and they release a compound, they release a toxin that is called penicillin, and this penicillin is released not to allow the growth of any other organisms in the near vicinity. It kills various other bacterial species. And this penicillin nowadays they are also used in pharmaceutical industry as antibiotics. Okay, so this type of interaction is also referred to as the antibiosis. So the organism that secrete the penicillin, it is not harmed, rather they the secretion, the presence of this penicillin, it does not allow other bacteria to grow in the near vicinity. So one is completely harmed and the one species is not affected at all. The fungus is not affected at all, and all other bacteria in the near vicinity, they are killed by the presence of this penicillin toxin. So, any doubt you have? Can you take a either? Screenshot. Any doubt, please?
Sir,
Shall we?
no, no, sir. Sir, totally comprehensive, slow, so we can easily comprehensive. It is comprehensive for us, sir.
Okay. Are you going?
Sir, I have a doubt.
Okay, please go on. Naik, madam. Yes, Gloria.
Yes, sir. So, there are so many words like obligate and facultative in each topic.
Okay.
Like, yes, sir. In mutualism, also, it is there obligate and facultative. And in host dependence, also, it is there. And in
Yes.
parasite development, also. So,
Yes.
so how can we differentiate it?
Now, differentiation lies upon the how do you understand what obligation? Okay. You suppose you have helped your friend. Okay, and your friend also have you have obligated them. That is called obligatory. Both are you help her and she will help you. Both are necessary. Facultative, in the facultative, it may not be present, not necessary. So when you consider any parameters, when both are necessary, it is obligatory. Both are necessary for a common purpose. And in case of facultative, both are not necessary. So in different cases, in the host case, in the parasite case, they have different association, they have different meaning. But usually you try to understand what is obligate. Obligate means they are both are necessary, and in case of facultative, they are not necessary. Both are not necessary. For example, in case of mutualism, what do we say? We have studied in case of obligate mutualism, lichen, both are necessary. Facultative in the symbiotic relationship, in case of facultative mutualism, uh, both the symbionts are benefited, but they are not entirely dependent on the mutualistic association. That means both are not necessary for the continuity of their association. So that is called faculty. May be necessary, may not be. Have you studied about this movement, obligatory movement of the molecules, facultative movement of the water molecules, when one depends upon the other, and when there's no one does not depend upon the other? So later on, we can now we'll move on to the life cycle of parasite and its pathogenesis. Life cycle of the parasite and its pathogenesis. Okay, life cycle of a parasite. A parasite has a life cycle. Like all other animals, they have a life cycle, particular life cycle. Now, a parasite, it lives on another body. It may be a vertebrate animal, it may be an invertebrate animal. Sometimes it does not bring about any harm. Suppose Plasmodium, it does not bring any harm to the mosquito which carries them, Anopheles female Anopheles mosquito. But the same Plasmodium, when it enters into the human being, they are studied under the pathogenicity. So when we study pathogenicity, we only relate it to the harm, because the pathogenesis, the changes they bring about in the body of the primary host. The vector is the mosquito. We never study what impact does the plasmodium. It is simply carried with some development inside the mosquito body, but it does not have any impact on the mosquito body. So we never study its pathogenicity, only related to the human being. So always parasite, whether they are direct or indirect, whether they are multi-genetic or digenetic or a monogenetic parasites, they always have their influence on the definitive host. So let's go on to the life cycle. We need to study the life cycle in order to understand what is their impact globally, so that we can frame certain rules and regulation to prevent the pandemic or epidemic situation of different parasites. So it is necessary to bring about the control measures, to bring about the uh, rules and regulations by which we can mitigate their propagation. Now, there are two types of life cycle. Direct life cycle, as you know, direct development. Miss Gloria, you direct development where there is no larval stage, and indirect development when there is a larval stage. Same thing, we have a direct life cycle and we have an indirect life cycle. So, direct life cycle, where the parasite completes the life history, the life cycle only in one host, and that host is a definitive host. So these parasites, they are transmitted from one host to the next host through certain agents, and these agents, they are generally non-living agents. They are abiotic agents, because if they are biotic agents, we will certainly say they are vectors. Acetaconazole. They are vectors. So they are non-living agents, they're abiotic agents, and these include the air, the contaminated water, the food, the soil, anything. So they are transmitted through these agents from one organism, from one suffering person to the other healthy person. They complete their life cycle in one. So it is a direct life cycle, only in one host. An indirect life cycle, they require more than one host. Now, example for this direct life cycle is certainly Entamoeba histolytica, best example, and you all are aware. You have studied about the life history of Entamoeba histolytica. You have studied that they dwell in the colon of the intestine, the human intestine, and they are transmitted along the fecal matter. And this fecal matter, if they contaminate the nearby water, edible water, potable water, municipality water, and you drink them, you are infected equally. So they complete their life cycle in only one host. And it is transmitted from one person to another through inanimate agent like food, contaminated vegetables, raw vegetables when you eat them, and contaminated water. Indirect life cycle, they require more than one host. So if it is digenetic, they have two hosts, and if they are multi-host life cycle, they have multiple hosts, maybe three. So best example, the mosquito Plasmodium vivax, it is a digenetic parasite. The Teniosolium is a digenetic parasite. Liver fluke, it is also a digenetic parasite. Okay. Now coming to the parasite, parasite always causes some degree of destruction, trauma, and they are studied as mechanical trauma. They cause damage in various ways. For example, eggs. So trematoda eggs, they are large in size and can be deposited on the endothelial lining in the bladder, in the lungs and liver. So suppose Fasciola hepatica, because it dwells in the bile capillary or in the bile duct of the vertebrate host, there they lay their eggs, and if these eggs, they may get clogged in a particular region. So it will bring about a mechanical irritation, it will bring about damage to the tissue. Similarly, the next stage is the larval stage. The larvae also can cause some degree of damage to the host, uh, through which they are transmitted from one animal to the other. For example, the sorry, the helminthic larvae, Ascaris rhabditiform larvae, and these rhabditiform larvae, when they enter to the human being or the definitive host, they pass through the blood circulation, enter through the lungs, and sometimes they may cause damage to the lungs, or sometimes they bring about the association of the aggregation of the eosinophils, causing secondary pneumonia or the Loeffler's syndrome to the human being. Anyway, their movement simply may cause damage to the capillaries, because they flow through the blood vessels. So capillaries are very thin, and if certainly the capillaries get repaired, so no gross damage, but they have a liability to cause damage indirectly, because they invite, their movement causes allergic reaction, and this allergy invites the attention of the eosinophil. They aggregate at a particular region in the lungs, thereby causing Loeffler's syndrome, commonly known as the pneumonia. Next is the adult worm. Certainly, adult worms, they cause a
Sir,
fantastic damage to the human. Yes.
the pneumonitis is equal to pneumonia. So is it similar?
Pneumonia is the suffering. Pneumonia is anything related to the lungs. Okay. Any type of pneumonia, it is related to the lungs. Now, the COVID virus, they also infect the lungs, the airway. They're transmitted through the air, and any pathogen which is transmitted through the air, immediately uh, their temple is the lungs. So anything related to the respiratory problem, it is sometimes it is called respiratory stress syndrome, distress syndrome. So Loeffler syndrome, the pneumonia, all are related to the inability or sub inability of the lungs for purification of the air. They don't allow the complete ventilation of the respiratory gases. That condition is called pneumonia.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Then adult worm, they of ancylostoma, then ascaris tinea. Let's take an example of the ascaris. You must have come across when you search through the Google. You must have seen that the children, you have seen that the ascaris, they come out through their nose, and sometimes the obstruction of the intestine by a mass of ascaris, large number of ascaris, which have uh, definitely necessitated for surgical removal of these ascaris. Otherwise, they have completely blocked the. So in such cases, the adult parasite, if they aggregate, if they clog, if they block the movement of the food along the alimentary canal, so it will definitely bring about mechanical trauma. Then there's entamoeba histolytica. They release toxic substance, and these toxic substance, they merely dissolve the lining of the colon and get an access, and thereby it leads to ulceration, and this ulceration may be fatal when it is not checked, thereby releasing blood, and this blood along with the fecal matter comes, and if it is acute, occult blood comes out along with the fecal matter. So such is the condition. The adult worms, they bring about, for example, ascaris, they block the pathway, and in case of entamoeba histolytica, they bring about mechanical damage by causing perforation in the colon wall, thereby leading to ulceration. Next, inflammatory reactions. Inflammatory reactions, for example, the Wucheria bancrofti reason the causative organism of filariasis. You know, filariasis, they are transmitted by the Culex species of mosquito. Sometimes this adult worm, they are viviparous in nature. They give birth to their young ones. They cause mechanical blockage and chronic inflammation of the lymphatics. So filariasis, the name implies from the elephant type of legs. Elephantiasis, the term arises. The limbs, lower limbs, the scrotum, the very rarely the forelimbs. Basically, the lower limbs, the scrotum, they get enlarged because of the blockage of the lymphatic ducts by the presence of these adult parasites. So it is called inflammatory reaction, and these persons who suffer from this infection from filariasis, they show high rise in eosinophil count, and this condition is called eosinophilia. Similarly, trematode eggs can induce inflammatory changes. Trematoda, and these Cestoda includes in the Trichinella is a trematode parasite. Cestoda, they include the fasciola, they include the tinea. Similarly, trematode eggs, they can induce inflammatory changes, granuloma formation. So granuloma formation, when the granules get deposited, it gets surrounded by a thickened structure surrounding the egg, surrounding the area of egg deposition, it gets granuloma. So such changes are inflicted by the parasite in different stages of their development, and sometimes the uh, enzyme production, they also produce enzymes or uh, lytic materials which causes lysis. Lysis means the dissolution of the cells, lytic, necrosis. So when the cell membrane dissolved, it causes necrosis of the tissue. So intracellular parasite, particularly Leishmania, the Plasmodium, then Trypanosoma, they produce enzymes, and these enzymes, they cause necrosis of the host cells. For example, Plasmodium, you must have come across, they rupture the host cell, they rupture the liver cell. When they change into cryptozoite, we're going to study. So this rupturation is brought about by the release of certain lytic substances. Entamoeba histolytica also releases, as I've told you earlier, various types of lytic substance or enzymes which are responsible for the formation or the development of the ulceration in the lining of colon. Okay, colon region, because they are basically, they cause infection in the colon region. That is why we feel the discomfort in the lower abdomen, because they infect the uh, colon region. Then toxins also are produced by the parasites. Suppose the Entamoeba histolytica also produce toxins. So what are toxins? Toxins are chemical substances. For example, Plasmodium, they convert the hemoglobin into hemozoin. Sorry, hemin into hemozoin. Hemoglobin is separated protein and hemin part. Hemin is converted into hemozoin, and these hemozoin granules, they act as a toxic substance. And when they are released after the rupture of the RBC, they are responsible for the rise in temperature of the patient. So whenever, in every hour, in every 48 hours or 72 hours, depending upon the uh, cotton malaria or tertian malaria, the release of these hemozoin granules is coincident with the rise in temperature of the human body. So these toxins, they are produced by the parasite in different forms, and whenever toxins are poisonous substance, definitely it will cause some degree of harm to the animal body. Then allergic manifestation, simply when you are infested with any type of maybe nematode parasite infection or helminthic parasite infection, you, if you are infected, then definitely your DC count will show high rise in eosinophil. And you know, eosinophil are manifested with allergic reaction. You must have studied what is the function of the eosinophil. They are released, their number increases on allergic conditions. So allergic means any allergic manifestation mean any foreign substance which is maybe a chemical form, maybe present in the food. If they are present in the body and bring about some degree of response in the form of itching, redness of the eye, redness of the skin, that is called allergic reaction. So here, in case of allergic manifestation, many metabolic and excretory products produced by the parasite, they may bring about allergic manifestation or behave as an allergen to bring about some degree of reactions by the host body. Then neoplasia, some neoplasia means it is the simply abnormal growth of the cells, abnormal growth of the cells. Infection by cystosoma, they cause neoplasia, where the cells increase in number, resembling the tumor or the cancerous cell. Now, we have treated this life cycle of parasites and its pathogenesis. So we'll come with their pathogenesis. We have studied about their pathogenicity in forms of eggs or the larva at the adult, and their toxin product, how they bring about some changes. Or now we'll bring about certain examples. For example, protozoan infection. So protozoan infection, the lesions are greatly influenced by proliferation, multiplication, and metastatic spread to distant organs. What is proliferation? They evolve. Proliferation, that means they increase. Multiplication means they increase, proliferate. Then metastatic spread. From one region they spread. Example is Entamoeba histolytica. They multiply in the intestinal lumen, and in each life cycle, I think for 8 numbers of the daughter Entamoeba histolytica comes out. At the same time, along with their multiplication within the intestinal lumen, they secrete histolytic enzymes or chemical substances which may act as toxic substances that lies that brings about dissolution of the intestinal cells, enabling the organism to bring about create a hole to penetrate the gut. And once if they penetrate the outer layer of the submucosa, then mucosa, they come to lie on the, they come nearer to the blood vessel, and along with the circulation they will spread to different organs, different parts of the body, different regions of the body. Another protozoan parasite is plasmodium. It is a intracellular. Now entamoeba is a intercellular parasite. Now this intracellular parasite, you when you will study the life cycle, you will come to know about the damages it brings about in the liver cells as well as the RBC. So they multiply. The damages is caused due to their multiplication. They multiply. They bring about, they increase their number through the process of schizogony. Next, protozoan parasite. Then we have commonly the helminthic parasite, nematohelminthic parasite. They are commonly studied under the helminth infection. And this helminthic infection, the man serves as the definite host in most of the helminthic infection. And the adult parasites are found inside the body of the human being. Now, what are the pathogenic effect these parasites cause to the human body? Now, pathogenicity depends on their number. That is, we say the load of the agent, the load of the causative organism, how many organisms they have access to the body. That is called the load, their number. And their habitat. Habitat means where they dwell, and on the pattern of laying eggs or larvae. So the effect they have, they cause physical obstruction. Physical obstruction, we have come across the ascaris, which is a nematohelminthic parasite, roundworm parasite. They cause masses of the roundworms, large number of these roundworms. They cause intestinal obstruction. They block the movement of the food, and it makes necessary for the surgical removal of these ascaris mass. If a single worm enters accidentally into the appendix, it will block, and it will bring about it will cause appendicitis, thus thereby necessitating the removal of the appendix from your body within at least 24 hours. Because once inflammation occurs, this inflammation, the toxic substances produced within, they will spread throughout the body, and that time it may be fatal to the person. Then pressure effect. Sometimes cysts, they accidentally enter into the vital organs, and the vital organs, the most important vital organ is the brain. If the cyst remains within the brain, it will, by virtue of its size, it will employ certain pressure in the surrounding neural tissues, and this pressure will bring about, it will impact pressure, and it will also destroy certain tissue, the neural tissue, that may be fatal or it may bring about certain paralytic effect on the host body. Parasites sometimes they uh, are present in other sites of in the brain, in the eye, and produces damages by virtue of their pressure. Suppose their pressure leads to the squeezing of the capillary in the brain. So if the blood flow within the capillary in the brain, if it is squeezed for few seconds, so blood will not flow to the area it is destined to flow, and what will happen? The area will it will not get oxygen or nutrition. It will be damaged. It will not function. So that region, the area which it controls, will become paralyzed. That is the effect of pressure effect. It is called pressure effect about on by the uh, cyst. Okay, cyst. What is a cyst? A stage of development which is covered by a hard covering, and this hard covering actually, if it is present in a very uh, certain organs, vital organs, these hard covering, they exert pressure onto the soft tissue surrounding them. And this pressure effect is, as I have told you, they may not allow complete flow of the blood to the vital organs or to specific region inside the brain. Next is the lymphatic obstruction. Yes, certainly the phyleretic adult organism, Wucheria bancrofti, they reside in the lymph nodes, the lymph vessels. You know what is lymph vessel? Can I? Can any one of you? If you have any doubt, I can explain you what is a lymph.
So it is a fluid just like blood. Only WBC goes through that phase,
It
goes
is
through that pathway.
okay. Thank you. It is a, from where it comes, Gloria. From where it comes, how it is generated.
Sorry, sir. Don't I didn't. I don't remember.
No, it is drained from the blood. Okay, it is drained from the blood. So it is blood minus RBC plus certain proteins is lymph. It is the extracellular fluid or tissue fluid. You know, all tissue, all cells, since their origin, they have originated in a liquid medium, in a water medium. So similarly, even from the evolutionary point of view, all our body cells, even though it is an organ, individual cells, they are immediately surrounded by a thin film of fluid that is called the tissue fluid, and it is derived from the blood. And when this tissue fluid is not returned to the blood, then blood volume will decrease. So when this tissue fluid, which has no RBC, only WBC and no protein and plasma is present, they are returned to the blood through certain vessels, and these vessels are called lymph vessels. When this tissue fluid enters the lymph vessel, it is called lymph, and the entire structure is called the lymphatic system. So these adult filarial worm, they block the lymph vessels, obstruction to the lymph vessels, due to which the enlargement of certain organs of the body occurs. That is called the lymphatic obstruction or vascular obstruction. Vascular obstruction means obstruction, blockage of the capillaries, and blockage of the capillaries by whom? It may be blocked by the stickiness of the red blood cells caused by the presence of certain parasite, may be falciparum. Okay, they bring about stickiness. The RBC, they stick with each other, and when they stick with each other, they become clogged in the blood vessels, in the capillaries, and they do not allow the blood to flow through the vital region organs like the brain. Then coming to the trauma, certain form of trauma. Trauma means, suppose hookworm, they generally flow, they enter through the bare leg by the children. when they walk in the barefoot and the soil is infested with the hookworm, they get access through the soft skin lining the small children foot. And if they make a opening, and this opening, sometimes they get infected, and this leads to trauma. Then allergic manifestation and the malignancy, they bring about neoplastic growth. Malignancy means whenever there is a unusual growth in the organ or a part of the organ due to neoplastic growth or multiplication of these cells. That is called predisposition or leading to malignancy. So next we'll move on to the next will evolution of parasitism, how the parasite have evolved. As I have told you, it is simply accidental. They have not originated as a parasite like all other organisms. Simply they were free, and the other organism which is now a host, they all were once upon a time they were free living. But in such occasion they have come across each other, and they found both being benefited or some being benefited. And with the evolution or with the passage of the time, they bring about certain modifications in their body by which they have become completely dependent on the host body. And we say they are obligatory, they must remain, they are completely associated with the host body. If they are removed from the host body, they will simply die. So parasites have evolved from the free living organism by their accidental association. Maybe they have become, as you please go back to 1984, I think 84, the time where we first have heard about the HIV. Okay, HIV. So HIV, when they have traced their origin, they found that they have been originating on the African monkeys, how they have come to the human being. So one theory states that it is just an accidental association. How it is accidental association? The butchering of these tribal in the African countries, when they butchered these monkeys, some blood flash, they have blood, simply they have contaminated the butcherer's body, and in this way the HIV have come in association with the human body. So it is one of the theory. Now, the relationship evolutionary, now co-evolution of parasite and their host, it is co-evolution, both have evolved. What is evolution? To come up with certain changes. They have evolved some changes. Co-evolution, simultaneously the host has evolved, the parasite has also evolved. So evolutionary relationship between the host and parasite, so due to their as being associated with the host body, they have completely become dependent upon the host body, and such that they uh, brought about modification in their body, as well as particularly the most of the modification has been achieved by the parasite in order to remain in the host. So sometimes to some extent, in the immunological point of view, they have influenced the host immune systems to some degree, but basically they have incurred maximum changes in their structure, both morphologically as well as anatomically, biochemically, and physiologically, to sustain in the body of the host. Now, parasitism, it is a lifestyle, and what are the advantages and limitations? Limitation means disadvantages. So there is a there is a comparison given about the advantages and disadvantages of the. So parasitic lifestyle is efficient to some extent for their efficient survival. They have adopted a parasitic. That means an organism which was once a free living, they have they have adopted, they have brought about, bring about certain adaptive features, adaptive changes, and this is called the parasitic lifestyle. They have influenced They have brought certain changes in their body. So, for their efficient survival in the host body, they have evolved the parasitic lifestyle. Main purpose of the organism existence is to ensure that as many of its genes as possible are transferred into the next generation without any change. So, advantages and disadvantages of a parasitic lifestyle is given in page 24. So, in two columns, um, so advantages: once host is located, no need for further searching. When the parasite finds a host, then completely it becomes associated, no further searching. And the disadvantage is that extreme host specificity. If a parasite has a specific host, and if it does not come across the specific host, then uh, it will not associate with any other organisms. And there is a time limit. If it will enter within certain period, then only it can sustain or survive. Otherwise, and if it continues for several generations, that means the entire parasite will become extinct. Second is, food is advantages is that in the host body food is permanently available, and limited requirement for complicated food capturing mechanism. There is no need to procure the food, to to search for the food, because you are dwelling in a region where ready-made food is available, and it is plentifully available. So, in order to in order to complement this, they have reduced need for food processing. No need to process the food, no need for digestion of the food, because they are access to pre-digested food. Now, what is the disadvantages in this point? They must locate an optimal site within the host to ensure food availability. So, if they get stuck in a region where there is no food, ultimately what will happen? They will succumb to their misplaced misplaced in the body of the host. Third is protection from okay, since they dwell in the host body, they are fully, completely protected from the predators, from the environmental extremes. The extreme hotness will not bring about any harm. Extreme coldness will also not bring about any harm. They're well protected. But what is the disadvantage? They must adapt to host internal physiological environment. If there is a difference in osmolarity, they will not sustain. They will not become alive. They will die. That is why most of the uh, parasites, they have attained this, to live in this micro environment in the same osmolarity condition. Then protection from predators. Well, they are protected from the predators. No disease will harm them because they are not free living. Now, disadvantage is that although you are protected, you should overcome the host immune response. If you can overcome, if you can mask, if you can neutralize, if you can uh, dissociate the host immune response, you can live permanently and effectively. Next is reduced need for dispersal, because host carries the parasite. Host will carries the parasite wherever the host will go. The parasite will spread automatically. But here the disadvantage is that spread limited by host geographic range. It cannot go to any ranges. So if it is human, only when, if it is a parasite of the human being, it will only be available only where the human is present. The region, the geographical region which is dwelt by the human being, which is inhabited by the human being. No other organisms can take its place. The last advantage is that it can devote larger proportion of energy intake to reproductive output in comparison to a free living organism. All the energy it uses for the reproductive output. That is why maximum reproductive capability No energy is required for food searching. No energy is required for processing of the food. So for the spread of the food, circulation of the food. So entire energy is devoted for only reproduction. That is why maximum production of eggs occurs by these parasites. The disadvantage is that transmission can be extremely risky, and most offspring die before establishing to a new host, because when they are transmitted from one host to the other, they must pass through certain uh, medium, and during this passage through this medium, they may come across certain extremities and may completely die rather than to complete the life cycle. They may not reach the host altogether. So, in one way, in the last point, one way their reproductive capacity is greater, but still the disadvantage is that the offspring should reach the particular host, and it will pass through certain agents. And while passing through certain agents, maybe inanimate or animate agents, there is a less chance that they may reach the definitive host within this stipulated time. As you know, they have a stipulated time, otherwise they will just die. Everyone has a stipulated time to complete in one host. Now we'll move on to the um, distribution of diseases and zoonosis caused by animal parasites. Okay, so what is zoonosis? Uh, can any one of you can I have a wild try? What is zoonosis? Mm, okay.
Related to animals?
Yes, definitely zoonosis is definitely related to animal.
Spreading
Uh,
diseases to animals.
yes, from non-human animal, if a parasite from a non-human animal, remember non-human, so it has developed a certain parasites, it has developed certain adaptive features, it has developed the capabilities, it will simply jump from a non-human animal to human body over the period of time in the course of their evolution. So once upon a time they were present in the non-human body, and over years together they have achieved certain development, they have achieved certain features. Both morphological, anatomical development has occurred, which made them possible to rely on the body of the human being, and it has occurred over a period of evolution, through a course of that evolution. This is called zoonosis, and this can be this zoonosis, the best example is this the HIV. Okay, HIV, as I've told you, they were present in the non-human, these African monkeys. Similarly, the SARS virus, they were present in the other animal. So some opine that they were present in the bats. So bat is also non-human, although they are mammal. So simply they have become associated. These virus have become associated with the human being, and simply they can readily mutate several times, and mutation is continuing, and the havoc they have created in this COVID days. So similarly, the Nipah virus, the Ebola virus, and the coronavirus, all these were once they were present. This parasite, the viral parasite, they were once present in the non-human body, and subsequent. See, even simply the flu, the swine flu, they have adapted, they have developed, and they have become certain due to certain changes. They are now can infect the human body. Simply the bird flu also, avian flu, which we say, they have also. So these are called zoonosis. Study of zoonosis is the about the disease that spread from non-human to human. Okay, so we cannot certainly say that whatever disease is present today, no further new type of disease will We cannot say that, because they are continuously evolving. So any changes, and there should be a condition that these human being must be in close association to the non-human carriers, either in any form. As I've told you, the butcher, while butchering the killing the monkey, the flash of blood spread into the body where he had a previous cut, and this blood contained the HIV and it spread simply. So one should for the association, for the jumping from the non-human to the human should associate with this non-human host for some reason. Now, sources of infection, human being enjoy a prominent place in the food chain, definitely. Manisha Sreshta, Jibo Roichi, so food chain, the human has the top of the chain, food chain, and it also plays a dominant role in ecosystem. Yes, human being, anthropogenic activities by the human being, we influence the ecosystem, and our influence will certainly destroy the ecosystem. Although we are the prominent, we acquire the prominent place, we head the food chain, we play the dominant role in the ecosystem, we forget about how to maintain the balance of the ecosystem. Anyway, this is all about ecology. Now, human being, by being its role in the food chain, it gives other opportunistic organism to explore human as the target for food and shelter, definitely a member of the food chain, and all are in some way related to the food chain. So most of the parasite, they live on the resources of humans, have been reported since time immemorial. Since human being we consider as the last member of the food chain, certainly some animals must have traveled through the food chain and got access to the final destination, that is the human being, where they have developed certain intricate relationship, bringing about certain modification to live as a suitable and full-blown parasite. Almost we can say that human beings are the host to nearly 300 species of parasitic worms, more than that. And many species of protozoa are also present, which are parasite to the human being. So basically, parasite which we study, apart from the bacterial and virus, the parasite generally include the protists, which are the unicellular, and the metazoans, which we consider or we study under helminth, both nematohelminthes and platyhelminthes. These are the two categories of parasite we study in our, so protozoan parasite and the helminthic parasites. Now, the infections occur due to specific causative agent. What is causative agent? What is infection? When your body gets accessed by a foreign organism, you are infected, and this infection is due to a specific causative agent. Now, the causative agent, it will reach your body through a series of steps or sources, or it may get access to your body by certain means. By certain means, it may be animated or non-animated sources. So these sources may be somehow forming surrounding on the prospective host, where it carries out its day-to-day. So sources, what is source? Source is the point from where you get infected. Now, if you are infected, that means you have an easy access to that source. You are surrounded by that source when you are enjoying your day-to-day activities. That is called the source of infection. You have entered a region, a bushy region, without completely covering your uh, body. Excuse me. Without, excuse me, please. Sir, namaskar. हाँ सर, देखिए देवी सर. Thank you. So sources, it may be sources may be food source, foodborne disease, soil-borne disease, waterborne disease, airborne disease, and the disease simply, it may be transmitted through the insects or through the waste material or waste, animal waste. So let's take into example the soil. So directly or indirectly, we are in always touch with the soil. If we bring vegetables, raw vegetables, so they are in, they grow in the soil. So we have to wash them. So some part of our life cycle, we are in constant touch with the soil, and whether it is or the organisms are also, they are associated with the soil. They may be arboreal, aquatic, or aerial. They have. So human beings are not presenting an exception to this. We are also directly or indirectly, we are in contact with the soil. So soil hosts, or soil contains, it houses number of pathogens. Okay, it houses number of pathogens, and including basically the cestodes and the nematode. So nematode, this is scaris, the filariasis, the hookworm. All these are soil-borne diseases, and these pathogens, which I've already told you, they are transmitted to the human being through the soil by direct mechanism or through contaminated food items. Directly, a small child is moving barefoot. I always say a small child, because the small child, their foot is very, they have a very soft skin in their foot. But in case of the adult, their it is deposited with a keratinized tissue. So they will simply, barefoot, underneath the foot, the hookah cannot penetrate. But if they access on the upper surface, they can get access. So these nematode parasites, they either they enter the body directly through certain holes, or making holes, penetrating to this small soft tissue, or they get access indirectly through contaminated raw vegetables, which we do fail to wash before eating them raw, or our lifestyle are also responsible for the transmission. Unhygienic lifestyle. Simply, Ascaris lumbricoides is transmitted only through the uh, food contaminated food, or through the infected soil. Sometimes the soil infected, and if it is airborne, simply it will enter through the nose, enter the air passages, and somehow either it will hamper the lungs, or somehow it has access to the blood. Then it will circulate throughout the body, and completely, and finally it will rest in the gut. Then water is, we need water. All animals also require water. So water are all the source of many diseases, many particularly um, protozoan diseases. Water. So waterborne diseases, they have a significant challenge to the human life, especially in the developing countries, including India. They are more frequent and severe during period of flood, period of monsoon, um, and water related disasters. And that is why you must have come across the after the during the rainy season, you must have seen that these medicine shop, they are only engaged in selling the medicine for the dysentery, because this endemic amoebic dysentery, it is caused by the contaminated water. So contaminated water, that is overflow of water, and sometimes the contaminated water may contaminate your drinking water and you get infected. So amoebic dysentery is one such prominent disease, and there are also other diseases which are contaminated through which are passed through the contaminated water. Food is also a source of many zoonotic infections also through the food. Parasitic. Suppose improperly cooked pork, as you have studied, is responsible for teniasis. One may become infected with tinea solium when they eat the improperly cooked pork meat, because if it is not properly cooked, the larval stage, it will not be killed. Similarly, pigs are infected with also parasites. Human individuals can easily acquire uh, cryptosporidium if they accidentally swallow food or water that is contaminated with stool of infected animals. So the stool of the infected animals, they can contaminate the water, and this water, if we drink, they will enter into our body, or it will enter through the unwashed fruit which we consume from the orchards directly. Then zoonosis, as we told you, that naturally transmitted between the uh, non-human vertebrates and the man. So such animals, non-human vertebrates, means a disease of animals. Then leishmaniasis, trypanosomiasis, filariasis, uh, trichinosis are some of the examples of zoonotic diseases among various animals. Pets such as cats and dogs are easy source of infection who can carry and pass parasites to people. So basically, most of the parasites which obey the rule of zoonotic transmission, they are transmitted through the pets like dogs and cats. So many of the ticks or the fleas, they are transmitted. Young animals such as puppies and kittens are more likely to be infected with roundworms and hookworms. And wild animals can also be infected with parasites that can infect. uh, One such example is raccoon feces. So raccoon feces, they Balis ascaris, they get infected with this parasite, the raccoon, and if they accidentally uh, people swallow the soil which is contaminated with the fecal matter of this raccoon, they will be infected with this Balis ascaris. Now, coming to the they are wonderful creatures of the earth, and their number is far more larger than the other. Imagine no insect, no insect, little pollination, or negligible pollination. Insects are the main sources of pollination. In addition to the, as you know, water pollinated by flowing water or pollinated by air, there are very basically true pollinators are insect, and that too, the honeybee are the most efficient pollinators. Honeybee, as you know, most of the fruits, if they are pollinated by non-apis, or sorry, non-honeybee insect, their size will be very small. And if they are pollinated by honeybees, their size increases very efficiently and largely. So honeybee has a very uh, wonderful role to play for these agriculturists, because they are advised to go for beehive keeping or apiculture. Now, insects, they are the good pollinators of plants, but along with this, they are there is a vast diversity of insect, and they definitely act as vector. And one such vector is the cockroach. The cockroach, and in addition, you are all aware of the mosquito also, the Culex mosquito, the Anopheles mosquito. They carry the pathogens. They also carry the bacteria, the protozoans, and even some stages of the helminthic worms along with the virus, and transmit them to the prospective host, to the definitive host. This is the role played by the insect, apart from their economical role in agriculture. During this process, pathogens, they undergo developmental changes within the vector body. That is why we say vector body, vector, where they undergo certain changes. If they don't undergo certain changes, they are called carriers. So these transformations are essential to attain a stage of pathogen suitable to survive or grow in the target host. If the if certain stages will not pass through the gut of the female Anopheles, remember it is female Anopheles, not male, because male Anopheles mosquito, they only go for the sap, and they don't go for blood meal. So in case of insect, some stages of development is completed in the body of the insect, and when a particular stage is reached to in which it will target the definitive host, then only they can complete their life cycle and survive. Now, coming to the modes of infection, you get infected directly or indirectly. Direct means simply you take the infective agent, you take the causative organism through water, or so it may be transmitted from a natural reservoir to a susceptible host in different ways. What is a reservoir? A reservoir is the animal or a animal who harbors the adult parasite. They are considered as the reservoir. So, in order for the transmission of the disease from a diseased human, to a healthy person, it requires transmission, and after transmission, we say the healthy animal is infected. The infection may be direct or indirect. What is a direct infection? So direct infection or direct transmission, uh, simply directly. Chickenpox, the ringworm. If you uh, if you use the cloth of the person suffering from ringworm, which is a fungal infection, he will simply get infected with that disease. Conjunctivitis, जो आँखि धरा रोगटा, सेटा मध्य directly infection है, simply through contact, either through skin to skin contact, or through contact mediated by the clothes, or through fluid contact. Okay, fluid contact. So it is called direct transmission. If the transmission is through blood from the HIV virus, it is transmitted through the blood. Okay, so it is a direct transmission. So a few disease, like example, HIV, it spread through the vaginal fluids, the body fluids, blood of an infected person. If they come in contact with the worn out or torn mucous membrane, then of an infected person, um, they will get infected. So that is why one of the reason is the sexual intercourse through which the HIV. Now, chickenpox, suppose one is having chickenpox, simply it has a certain little period. Suppose the person suffering says that, yes, I have, still it remains in the air, and it may be responsible for the passage or transmission from to other healthy persons. Now, droplet spread, best example is this uh, coronavirus. That is why you are asked to maintain a distance. Suppose if you sneeze, also these aerosols, the virus present in this air droplet in the aerosols, they remain in the air. They before falling to the, and if it is blown with the air, and if you inhale that air, you are infected. So that is called droplet spread. So these droplets are called aerosols, small droplets which are bound by some fluid. They're produced by sneezing, coughing, or even talking also. That is why that is called social distancing, which will not allow these aerosols or these droplets to spread from one person to another. So these expelled droplets are directly deposited on the skin, and conjunctiva means in the white portion of the eye, or the oropharyngeal mucosa. Oropharyngeal mucosa means the tontipaka region, the region where the food pipe and the nasal, that is called the oropharyngeal, the pharynx region, mucosa leading to infection. So tuberculosis, pertussis, that is whooping cough, Lohara Kasa pertussis, and meningococcal infections are transmitted from an infectious patient to a susceptible host by droplet transmission. What is susceptible host? Susceptible host means suppose a person having no mask. So one is standing and another person nearby him in the neighbor, he has a good sneeze number of times. So this person will definitely, if the sneezing droplets contains this person is a susceptible. Same time, if the person covers his face with a mask or nose with a mask, then he is less susceptible. Another susceptible person is a person having a weak immune system. They are susceptible. So I think what is susceptibility, you are clear about this. So susceptible host by droplet spread method. Another is contact with water or soil. So direct contact with contaminated water, soil, decaying organic matter, they will also transmit pathogens. Inhabiting them, we have already studied that the Ancylostoma duodenal falciform larva, they come to the soil through the fecal matter, and simply contact with the from the soil, it may enter into the water, and directly they may enter into the human body, susceptible human body, or through the water. Sometimes direct inoculation, suppose during vaccination, one such practice is that the entire pathogen as a whole, it is extracted, it is killed through UV radiation, or it is rendered harmless. Okay, inactive state को सामानों को निया जाता है, and they are injected into the healthy person, which will allow the healthy person, cause the healthy person's immune system to develop antibody. So this is called direct inoculation. So pathogen may be inoculated directly into the skin or mucosa through animal bites. So mu jota कहली, that is for vaccination, where you kill the pathogen and inoculate. So inoculation अर्थ कहयाकु मु कहली directly तम skin भितरकु से जीव. तो animal bite रे मध्य skin रे जाउची. One such example होची simply malaria. तो सुंड फुटेकरी बाइट कर कौन ब्लड नवा इट बाइट्स दी टू टेक ब्लड मिल आ सिंपली ब्लड मिल नेला बेलू को ब्लड ता भितर क्लॉट न होबा पई से तार सालिवरी ग्लैंड रु रिलीज करे सालिवा और सालिवा रिलीज करे नॉट टू अलाउ इट टू क्लॉट इनसाइड द प्रोबोसिस किंतु से सालिवरी रे रहता है स्पोरोजाइट्स मनी से इन्फेक्शन ही जाए इफ the bite is by through a infected anopheles, female anopheles mosquito. तो एगुड़ी को होची डायरेक्ट ट्रांसमिशन, डायरेक्ट एनिमल बाटा दे जीवो, ड्रॉपलेट माध्यम रे जीवो, कांटेक्ट रे जीवो, कांटेक्ट विथ द सॉइल रे जीवो, प्लासेंटा रे भी जाई परिबो थ्रू प्लासेंटा. तो केते गुडे इन्फेक्शन जोता मैं कहूचे एसटीडी गुडी को सेक्सुअली ट्रांसमिटेड डिजीज, व्हेनेवर a pregnant person, a pregnant lady, and she's asked to go for the STD testing or the HIV testing, because these pathogens, they will cross the placenta. Although we know that placental barrier is a ultra filter barrier, it will not allow harmful, but some viruses, some pathogens, they can easily access through the placenta to move into the fetus body, and thereby in the new fetus body it will definitely may cause harm. So these are direct transmission. Indirect transmission होची कौन कौन सी माध्यम रे जीव, they will pass from one the infected person to a healthy person through certain agents. Agent हमें कहबा vehicles. Okay, so vehicles जोटा कहबा, these include the non-animate air hella, air particles hella. These are non-animate, inanimate objects ताको vehicles कहबा. और animate objects को हमें कहबा vector. Okay, animate objects को कहबा vectors. So when the pathogens pass through the vectors or through inanimate objects, they are called, their transmission is called indirect transmission. So one such transmission is airborne transmission. Airborne transmission means air madhyamare setachip. The same thing, infectious agents are carried by airborne dust or droplet nuclei suspended in the air. So droplet nuclei are a dried residue of less than 5 microns in size. तो आमे ता पूर्वरु पढ़िथिले एठी मध्ये पढ़िथिले ड्रॉपलेट स्प्रेड. सो ड्रॉपलेट स्प्रेड होची कोन डायरेक्टली सेठी हमें काहे कि डायरेक्ट इन ट्रांसमिशन. व्हाई वी से डायरेक्ट ट्रांसमिशन? बिकॉज़ as I have told you, a person is standing there and the another person without any mask. So ये sneeze कला directly water droplet ता skin को गला ता नाको पाखा पाखी गला जेतोरे से इनहेल कला से ड्रॉपलेट्स गुडी को ता नासल चेंबर को पसिगल. किंतु एटी जोटा एयरबोर्न ट्रांसमिशन होची सेटी भी एयर रे से वाटर ड्रॉपलेट गला. बट हियर एयरबोर्न ट्रांसमिशन इज इन ए डिस्टेंस टिके अधिक रहउची. केमती रहउची? सो एज डस्ट पार्टिकल्स और ड्रॉपलेट न्यूक्लियाई जोटा आगुरु सस्पेंड हेके रहितलो, व्हिच वाज सस्पेंडेड प्रीवियसली, it will be carried by the air. Put an example. I'll give you an example given in your textbook. A children have contracted measles at a physician's office. After a visit of the child with measles, one day a child with measles have contacted the have gone to the physician's office. ताको देखा कला डॉक्टर ट्रीटमेंट हला मेडिसिन दे देले. बहुत दिन परे से measles रो से eruptions रो किछि particles गुडी को air रे रहितला. And after a few days, when the child has another child, healthy child, has visited the physician's office, he has become contacted with the measles virus, which was previously suspended in the air. So the difference hochi indirect transmission. Here it was suspended, and whenever a potential organism or a host has entered, it has gained entry into this body which was previously suspended in the air. किंतु ता पूर्व जोटा में direct transmission directly from the person who has gone through coughing or sneezing, directly से water droplet ता nose पाखो को चली गला, से inhale कर देला, infection ही गला. Now vehicle-borne transmission means it is transmitted through an agent. Airborne transmission, vehicle-borne transmission through an agent. तो ताको हमें foodborne कहि परिबा. In general, foodborne कहि परिबा, waterborne diseases भी हमें कहउचे. So in general ताको हमें कहिबा vehicle-borne, or it is transmitted through the products of the body like the blood. So these are bloodborne parasite. When if it is transmitted through the agent through the blood, it is called vehicle-borne. Through the food, vehicle-borne. Water, vehicle-borne. Airborne. And the inanimate objects also, they are responsible, like handkerchiefs, beddings, surgical scalpels. So surgical scalpels, if they are not properly washed or sanitized, they can also be blood stained. They can the agent for the vehicle-borne for the transmission of certain diseases to other persons. So vehicle may provide an environment where the pathogen grows multi. So a vehicle, if it is an animal, so vector, suppose it provides a medium where the animal can grow, it can multiply to some degree of development, and then it can be transmitted at the appropriate stage. So vehicle may provide an environment where the pathogen grows, multiplies, or produces toxin. Suppose the canned food rochi, um, improperly canned, suitably tak sterilized no kartiva, so they will become contaminated with the toxin by Clostridium botulism. Then ingestion of food and drink contaminated by infected form of parasite. So they are vehicle borne. And some there are vector borne diseases also. Mosquito, the fleas, ticks, they are carried by the vectors. Mosquito is a vector. Mechanical vector, these are biological vectors. Mechanical vector, which cockroach, they carry the disease producing organism in their legs also. Then transmission through by ingestion of a basically typhoid, the fecal oral route rate transmit the typhoid disease. Then there is a life cycle, direct, indirect life cycle, life cycle. Types of host, we have already covered it. Types of host, so primary, definite. Then course of infection, yes, it is important. Course of infection rate. There is a incubation period, prodromal period, illness period, decline period, convalescence period. Incubation period hochi the period between the infection and the outcome of the symptom. It is incubation period. It varies. It varies depending upon the type of infection and the infectious agent. So it may vary from 2 days, or it may vary for several months or years. Suppose a a rabid dog. Jodi gote rabid dog kamuri dela, so we wait for 10 days. Because ସେଇ ସମୟରେ ଯଦି ତାର ସେଇ ଦିନ ତାର ଇନଫେକ୍ସନ ହେଇଥିବ ରେବିସ୍ ଭାଇରସରେ ଆଉ ମଣିଷକୁ ଆସିଯାଇଥିବ, so it takes roughly merely 8 days. So on the in general ଆମେ ତାକୁ ଦଉଛୁ କ'ଣ 10 days, we wait for 10 days for the appearance of the symptoms. So we say that जो କୁକୁରଟି କାମୁଡ଼ିଛି, the dog who was bitten, whether symptoms has appeared in the dog or not. So we observe the dog if it is identifiable for 8 to 10 days. That is the incubation period between the infection and the outcome of the symptoms. What is prodromal period? It is the duration post-incubation during which the person develops mild symptoms. Complete clinical symptom as mild symptoms. It may be a nausea. Nausea means vomit-like feeling haba kintu banti haba nahi. It may be some degree of headache. ଟିକେ ଜରୁଆ ଲାଗିବ. These are called, these symptoms, the mild symptoms post incubation. ମାନେ incubation day ସରିଗଲା, ତାପରେ symptom ଟି ମୋ କହିବା କଥା ହଉଛି symptom ଟି gradually appear କରିବା ଆରମ୍ଭ କଲା. Then illness phase, third phase ହଉଛି illness phase. Characteristic signs and symptoms of the illness appears, and it will influence the host, and it will affect their day-to-day function. Then you have the decline period. So say parasite gradually tar load ta kame ka jibo. So the number of pathogens, they start decreasing, and this decreasing in the number of load, the number of pathogens in the human body, it results in the decline of the signs and symptoms, because their presence is related to the production of certain toxin which are responsible for the appearance of clinical symptoms. যদি সংখ্যা কমে গেল তাহলে definitely the symptoms and clinical symptoms will start decreasing, and the convalescence period is the recovery phase. जो हमें कही देउछे जे नहीं, after malaria I have become very weak. So gradually you will regain your normal health and strength. Okay, normal health and strength is which is regained after the illness is called the convalescence period. Now, symptoms of infection, you have morphological symptoms, means which you observe in your body in the form of itching or in the form of inflammation, so, paleness of the eye, weightlessness, then hair fall, the change in skin coloration. These are called morphological symptoms. That means it is easily observable from the outside. So next is the behavioral symptoms. Certain during some infection, the host body, they may show certain behavioral symptoms. Suppose African sleeping sickness, which is caused by the trypanosoma. Uh, it is transmitted through the Glossina palpalis vector. So here the behavioral changes is seen. Behavioral changes. They feel sleepy. They tend to sleep for longer hours. The drowsiness laguଥିବ ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ତା ନାଁ ହେଲା sleeping sickness. And other behavior effects are dizziness, loss of hunger or excessive hunger. Okay, loss of hunger when you are infested with parasites, so you don't get any nutrition. So malnutrition condition ଆସିଯାଇପାରେ, and in that condition you feel more hungerness. This is behavioral symptoms. So sometimes multiple time urges for natural बहुत अधिक परिश्रा लागिबो, nature's call, then sleeplessness, headache and many more. These are the behavioral symptoms which you observe. Then physicochemical symptoms, the parameters, crucial parameters that may be altered. Suppose physicochemical parameters means, suppose blood count, there is alteration in the number of eosinophil. That is a physicochemical symptoms. So when you go for DC, they will count what is. So if there is a rise in WBC, the infection is there. So normal WBC count should be within 8,000. So if it is in excess beyond 10,000, so they will not allow you to be discharged from the hospitalized condition. So no infection achi. So there is infection that it is defined by the number of WBC count. So these are physicochemical symptoms. Rise in heartbeat hela, blood profile, your lipid profile, blood profile जो DC को था कहले mu. Then rise in temperature also. That is also a physicochemical symptoms, because temperature rise पर हमें antipyretic के जो paracetamol हमें खाऊचे does to it is pyretic secretion होची ताको कमी दबा तो antipyretic नोचे. The Dolo 625 or the paracetamol, they are not the medicine which will relieve you from disease. Rather, they will decrease the temperature. So temperature, blood pressure, change in blood pressure, heartbeat, these are physicochemical symptoms which is seen manifested in some types of infection. Now diagnosis and prevention. Diagnosis हमें stool examine करिबा. Generally जो छोटो पिलांकर खाइबा को इच्छा हुए नहीं, झड़ी जाउची, weight loss होउची, so the physician, they go for stool examination. So stool mainly गोटे stool रे हबनी, consequently 3 samples निया जाउची. निया जाइकरी stool रे देखा जिवो whether certain eggs are ascaris रो eggs रहिछि कि नै सेटा सेमन देखिबे, ओवा बा रहिछि कि नै देखिबे. आउ stool examine करा जाउछि for entamoeba or amoebic dysentery to find the presence of these different stages of the trophozoite. Then you can go for diagnosis re colonoscopy when the pipe is passed through. যদি স্টুলରେ ଜଣା ପଡିଲାନି ତ endoscopy ରେ ଦେଖିବା whether parasites are there. Endoscopy ହଉଛି oral ବାଟ ଦେଇ ଗୋଟେ pipe ଯିବ, so that the internal view can be collected and it can be figured. And colonoscopy is through the colon region to find out whether certain parasites or change in the consistency of the gut is present, or to look the parasite in the gastrointestinal region. Blood test, as you know, blood test is also favored for parasitic infection. It can be tested by the blood. For example, Ucheria bankruptcy, the larval stage microfilaria, it can only be tested from the blood. When you collect the blood during uh, beyond 11 p.m. without switching on the light, because they have a nocturnal behavior. Nocturnal behavior माने light on कले से माने deep blood vessel को पढ़ाती. तो superficial blood vessel रहिबे in the darkness. So this condition has favored the mosquito to bite. तो से बाइट कला बेले से कौन करियो माइक्रोफाइलेरिया नहीं करी आ गोटे एनिमल को बा ह्यूमन बीइंग को ट्रांसमिट कर परिबो. सो इन दिस केस ब्लड फिल्म आमे नहीं करी जानी परिबा. प्लाज्मोडियम रे भी ब्लड फिल्म रे थिन फिल्म थिक फिल्म रे जानी परिबा इन्फेक्शन ऑफ द प्लाज्मोडियम. सो दीज आर ब्लड स्मीयर्स. और सेरोलॉजिकल टेस्ट होची जो ब्लड कलेक्शन करके तार प्लाज्मा रे whether they will study what type of antigen ba antibody develop करछि कि नै ताकू सेरोलॉजिकल टेस्ट रे हम टेस्ट करि परिबा. Then scanning भी करि परिबा. There are different types of the cat MRI सेतिर मध्ये हमें MRI कले सिस्ट जदि रहितबो ब्रेन रे सेटा जानि परिबा pathological cyst. तो स्कैनिंग रे जणा परिबा आ कोथरे जणा परिबो नै. And then immunodiagnostic tools hochi, you will test the presence of immunological derivatives in the form of antibodies roichi ki antigen roichi setru ame jani parbe yes some degree of infection is there. And laboratory culture hochi kon sensitivity mane suppose ko drug को गोटे पैथोजेन सेंसिटिव अछि तो ड्रग रो केते मात्रा रे हमें कहू छी जे गोटे लेखा खाऊ छे जर कमुनी की इन्फेक्शन जाउनी नै दीटा लेखा खाओ. सो इन ऑर्डर टू स्टडी टू ब्रिंग अबाउट अ कन्फर्मेटरी दे गो फॉर सेंसिटिविटी टेस्ट. दे कल्चर से पैथोजेन को कल्चर करिवे एंड ताको से मेडिसिन रो इंक्रीजिंग डोज रे देबे कोथरे सेटे सेमानकर मल्टीप्लिकेशन ता कम कम का जाउ छी. एंड दैट इज द डोज व्हिच हैज टू बी given to the person. And then prevention and control, there are awareness is the best practice. Mainly on the hygienic condition, maintenance of hygiene, social distancing, awareness is the best policy. And we should be aware about the airborne, foodborne and zoonotic disease and the time of outbreak. If there is an outbreak, government seta कही दियंती जे outbreak हे जायछि, don't take chicken, don't take egg, and जो region रो आसुछि से माने से region रो mass culling करि दियंती so that it will not spread. So this is one way. तापरे गवर्नमेंट और एनजीओ नॉन एनजीओ एमाने मध्य पार्टिसिपेट करंती फॉर अवेयरनेस. आरोग्य सेतु करा जायछि जो कोविड पीरियड रे WHO वर्ल्ड हेल्थ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मध्य से माने डिजिटली अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम ये करछंती. तो तांकर से ये रहितला जो मेंटेनिंग ऑफ डिस्टेंस, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग एथिक बाटे रहिबो. स्नीजिंग करबो एम्प्टी करिक स्नीजिंग. इफ यू डोंट हैव हैंडकरचिप, यदि मास्क नहीं एम्प्टी करिक स्नीजिंग करंती केते डिस्टेंस रे एबे भी एक्चुअली बहुत डिस्टेंस रे कथा बाटम पाखा पाखी कथा बाटा ठीक नो. सो दीज regional national levels रे management of diseases of the region. तापर कंटेनमेंट होची जो डिजीज स्प्रेड करची ताको कंटेनमेंट रीजन से जगह रु अन्य जगह को लोगों को अलाउ करा जाए, क्वारंटाइन रे ये करा जाउची. So all methods are ensured for preventing the spread of disease. So then I think we are now time camera he gala. Shall we continue?
Yes, sir.
Shall we continue?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you don't mind, I may it has served by unit 3 ter. Okay. Host immunity and adaptation in parasites. Host immunity. Immunity, we all have a immune system, and this immune system is controlled by a specific type of cell known as lymphocyte. Amara WBC re अन्यतम cell होची lymphocyte. A lymphocyte रो तार normal amount होची 25% in a normal individual. These lymphocytes are responsible for the development of B cell and T cell. B cell kon karibo, it will get transformed into plasma cell. A plasma cell will develop the antibody. T cell kon karibo, it will develop into say jo antibody formation hobo taku kache humoral immune. Our T cell ro kamo hochi, they will simply differentiate into natural killer cell, cytotoxic cell, memory cell, helper cell, एमती बहुत गुड़िए सेल तैयारी करिबो. समस्तंकर एम होची to kill the infected cell or the organism. तो एटा होची host immunity. And adaptation in parasite, जदि host immunity strong रहिबो ना, कौन सी parasite enter करि परिबोनी, तो parasite have developed how to evade the host immune system. ताकू केमती मास्क करियो, से host system, host immune system आम ऊपर केमती कु प्रभाव न पड़िबो, आमको चिन्हि परिबोनी, आमको nullify करि परिबोनी. So they have developed certain methods, that is we will study as adaptation, host immunity and the adaptation in parasites. So immunity तुमको कहीदेली जे दी प्रकार immunity रही, गोटे हूँ immunity which we have acquired, which we have inherited from birth, and the other immunity हूँ we have acquired it, ताको कहे acquired immunity. Innate immunity, acquired immunity. Innate immunity is present since birth. So humoral immunity, general immune response, you have humoral and cell mediated immunity. Apart from innate immunity, you have acquired immunity in the form of humoral and cell mediated. Now humoral immunity, they are, as I have told you, humoral immunity are developed by B cell. B cell con, B cells are the modification of lymphocytes which have been processed inside the bone marrow. Bone marrow re amar bone marrow re red blood cells, sabu blood cells ba ame kahiba blood elements gurika bone marrow re formation hochi. Formation hei sarla pore B cell, which is the product of lymphocyte, if they get processed and matured in the bone marrow itself, taku ame B cell kahiba. Au jo lymphocyte gurika processing au maturing hochi thymus re, taku ame kahiba T cell. So B cells are responsible for the production of antibody. What is an antibody? Antibody are proteinous molecule developed by the plasma cell in our blood against a antigen. What is antigen? Antigen are proteinous glycoproteinous molecule present on the surface of any cell. It may be a bacteria, it may be a virus, it may be anything. All will bear an antigen. An antigen कहबानी, they bear the antigen. So in general, आमे कहबा, as you are identified by your own name, and the name is, if it is similar, you are identified by your parents' name. Similarly, समस्तंकर गोटे स्वतंत्र antigenic रहिछि, स्वतंत्र type of protein रहिछि on the surface by which they are identified. से protein necessary, जो organism उपरे, pathogen उपरे, this protein in the form of antigen is necessary for the living state of the pathogen, for the pathogenicity of the pathogen. Antibody kon karibe, they will kill this antigen, they will make it functionless. Se takro uddesya rochi. And when the antigen are destroyed, the efficacy, the pathogenicity of the pathogen is also destroyed. So in this sense, these antibody, they are produced against a particular antigen to mask the effect of the antigen. So antibody सदाबेले produce होइके रहिबो नै, संगे संगे प्रोड्यूस हो किछि एंटीबॉडीज गुडिको प्रोड्यूस के बहुत दिन पर्यंत रहिबो दैट इज व्हाई वंस वी गेट इन्फेक्टेड सब्सिक्वेंटली हमर इन्फेक्शन हुए नाही केते गुडे डिजीज तो आधो थरे हे गला माने आउ लाइफ टाइम पर्यंत होबनी बिकॉज दिस एंटीबॉडीज तयारी हेकरी सब बेले रहिछि व्हेनेवर जदी से पैथोजेन प्रवेश करिवो इमीडिएटली दे किल देम किंतु प्रथम थर कहीं किल कर नथिले बिकॉज बाय द टाइम द एंटीजन आर रिकॉग्नाइज्ड आउ रिकॉग्नाइज कर सारा पर ताको विरोध रे एंटीबॉडी तयारी करिके ताको नष्ट करबा पर्यंत बाय दैट टाइम दे हैव increased their number and they have brought certain changes in the human body तो से सब्सिक्वेंट इन्फेक्शन रे से माने इफेक्टिव अनदर हमें एंटीजन रो क्लियरिटी करछे हमर जो ब्लड ग्रुप रहिछि ब्लड ग्रुप रे हमर ए बी ओ और ए बी रहिछि this is only due to the presence of two types of antigen A and B similarly हमर समस्त organ रे समस्त सेल रे स्पेसिफिक एंटीजन अछि जेते ब्लड रिलेशन हमर हो ना कहीं की we cannot donate anything जदि organ transplantation होची even if we are genetically identified still then we will continue to take immunosuppressive drugs to prevent the rejection of that organ so immunity these B cells humoral immunity are responsible or they are given by the B cells and these B cells when they come in contact with a antigen they become transformed into a plasma cell and this plasma cell will produce antibody and this antibody which are proteinous in nature they will attack the antigen present on the surface of the pathogens so taku ame kahiba humoral pathogen so humoral response involves antibodies which are produced in the response to the parasitic antigens such as glycoproteins glycolipids proteins तो मो जो कहितली एंटीजन गुडिको दे आर आइदर प्रोटीन्स इन नेचर और ग्लाइकोलिपिड इन नेचर और ग्लाइकोप्रोटीन इन नेचर तो प्रथम दफारे कोन होबा इम्यूनोग्लोबुलिन हमर पांचटा टाइप रो एंटीबॉडी प्रोड्यूस होची सो इम्यूनोग्लोबुलिन एम they are produced first immunoglobulin which are antibody to appear in an infected organ tapar subsequently immunoglobulin G produce hobo immunoglobulin these are all antibody au jete amara antibody ame ye rahibo strong rahibo we are immunologically tolerant a weak immune system mane amara immunologically ame weak hoche HIV कौन करे ना इम्यूनो से जो तार ना कौन होची acquired immunodeficiency so immune system को weak कर दिए and which places which makes way for the entry of all types of pathogens सेइति पई सब pathogen रो जो combined clinical symptom results in the formation of a syndrome सेइति में हम कहूचे HIV रो syndrome acquired immunodeficiency syndrome so cell mediated immunity जो humoral immunity वाला cell mediated immunity होची this is brought about by the T cell जेमति कहली जे lymphocyte रो से माने जदि प्रोसेसिंग हे जिवो ना एठी thymus amar mediastinum re rahichi thymus gland and it is the it is very important gland for as far as immune system is concerned am kwa jauchi je choto pilankar tike bodo thae bodo re tike komi jae tar action kichi nahi they gets टिके एट्रोफी हे जाय किंतु फंक्शन सब समान करि थाए तो तार फंक्शन हैला प्रोसेसिंग करिवो टी सेल को तो प्रोसेसिंग करिके टी सेल जो टी लिम्फोसाइट्स बा टी सेल हमें कहिबा से माने दे ब्रिंग अबाउट they release various types of chemicals called cytokines तापरे ए जो सेल mediated by cellular immunity they develop into various types of cells किछि phagocytes macrophages cell से माने phagocytose करिवे phagocytose माने कोन फॉरेन सेल को फॉरेन माइक्रोऑर्गेनिज्म गिली देबे ताको नष्ट करबे किछि सेल साइटोटॉक्सिक माने सपोज वायरस इन्फेक्टेड सेल को देखिले ए सेल ता नॉर्मल सेल इज इन्फेक्टेड बाय वायरस तो से कौन करिवे से साइटोटॉक्सिक टी सेल से टोटल सेल को नष्ट कर दो so that the virus will not spread to other healthy cells तो ताको कहजे साइटोटॉक्सिक टी सेल एनके सेल नेचुरल किलर सेल मेमोरी सेल से माने मने रखिबे जे प्रीवियसली को इन्फेक्शन आगुरु अतीत रे हेछि कि नै तो ए समस्त सेल गुडी का डिफरेंशिएशन होबो फ्रॉम द टी सेल्स and they bring about the immunity through phagocytosis through encapsulation, through melanization and necrotization. Phagocytosis janicho, simply they will phagocyte or they will surround the and destroy the foreign substance. Taku gili debe. What is encapsulation? ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ parasite ବହୁତ ବଡ଼ ହେଇଥିବ ସେମାନେ ସେତେବେଳେ କ'ଣ ହୁଏ ଫାଗୋସାଇଟୋସ୍ ତ କରିପାରିବନି ଫାଗୋସାଇଟୋସ୍ ସଦାବେଳେ ମ୍ୟାକ୍ରୋଫେଜ୍ ସେଲ୍ କରେ ଗୋଟେ ସେଲ୍ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆଣ୍ଟିଜେନ୍କୁ ସେଲ୍କୁ ଗିଳିଦେବ ସେ ସେଲ୍ଟି ଛୋଟ ବଟ୍ ଏନକାପସୁଲ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ବଡ଼ ପାରାସାଇଟ୍ ହେଇଗଲେ ଦେ କ୍ୟାନଟ୍ ବି ଫାଗୋସାଇଟିସ୍ କ'ଣ ମେକାନିଜମ ଇମ୍ୟୁନୋ ମେକାନିଜମ encapsulation covering capsule ମାନେ covering କରିବା so these two large parasite they are enveloped they are covered ତାକୁ ପ୍ୟାକେଟିଂ କରାଯିବ by cells and fibers of the by the host. Then another mechanism which is melanization, deposition of black brown pigment. तामने melanin होची हमर pigment. Skin melanin अधिक हो गेले skin dark हे जिवो. So melanization means deposition of the pigment कोठी in around the invading parasite. So when the invading parasites are surrounded by deposition of melanin pigment, which is black brown in culture, that is called melanization. So melanization kon hobo pigment deposit egel kemti maribo. Melanization interferes with vital activities of the parasite. Se tar respiration kari paribani, tar metabolism hei paribani, तो मोल्टिंग हे परिबनी हैचिंग हे परिबनी फीडिंग करि परिबनी किछ करि परिबनी डिवाइड सेल डिवीजन हे परिबनी सो अल्टीमेटली कोन होबो दे आर किल्ड so it is made harmless. Similarly, encapsulated parasite is destroyed and disintegrated. तो खंड खंड छोट छोट पूरा चुना ही encapsulated parasite. Then छोट छोट जेतबेले small pieces when they become converted into small pieces, they are then phagocytosed by the macrophage cells. Then is necrotization. It is a cellular defense mechanism seen in mollusk. mollusk रे मगर necrotization pulp formation रे पढिथिबो जे गोटे मुक्ता भितर को whenever any foreign particle may be in the form of soil in the form of sand particle से जेतेबेले मुक्ता भितर को पहुंची जिवो oyster भितर को पहुंच जिवो it will irritate the mantle layer of the oyster pulp forming oyster जेतेबेले irritation हैला ए irritant रू रक्षा पाइबाकू हेले to get rid of this irritant it will deposit layer after layer of nacreous layers and ultimately this nacreous layer will develop into a pearl. Similarly here also how this necrotization occurs, it is a cellular diffusion like the mantle. It also the host also secrete the nacre layer. So mantle is stimulated because of this helminth parasite जो हमारा मन अच्छी fasciola hepatica रे one host is the mollusk host. So mollusk host, the mantle is stimulated because of this helminth parasite and secretes nacre layer that becomes deposited around the parasite. During this process, a pearl is formed and the enclosed parasite is killed. So a covering is formed which kills the entire parasite. So this is necrotization. And hello. Then hypersensitivity to when body ro sensitivity टिके अधिक हे जिवो ओके आमे कहउछ जे हाइपर हे जेछि अधिक. So it refers to exaggerated and inappropriate immunologic response. Inappropriate, exaggerated, अधिक response, immunologic response. Penicillin, जोटी penicillin गोटे patient को दिया जिबा कहले penicillin whether it is tolerable by the patient or not टिके अल्प परिमाण आमे ताको दउछे तार स्किन ने टेस्टिंग करा जायछि मार्किंग कर दिया दिबो तापर देखा जिवो any skin eruption is there देखिबे किछि हेनी तापर then they will subject गोटे बैच रो तमे ए 6टी डोज पेनिसिलिन नबो यदि सेठी से रीजन रे स्किन इरप्शन ए किलकुंडी होबो रेडनेस हे गला that is called inappropriate immunologic response that is called hypersensitivity. And such reactions are referred to as immunopathologic reaction, as they may be harmful to the host, causing tissue damage. So immunopathologic reactions, এটা হচ্ছে immunopathologic reactions. Presence of allergen in the body, they bring about hypersensitivity, allergic reactions in body. If you inhale the dust particles, as in case of asthma patient, they will completely sneeze and go on sneezing, wheezing hobo, niswas novako problem hobo. So these are called hypersensitivity reactions. 4 types of hypersensitivity reaction are seen: type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. Type 1 hochi, it occurs within minutes of exposure to a parasitic antigen. Parasitic antigen, our hypersensitivity hochi not for allergen, for parasitic antigen. Parasitic antigen रो यदि हमें ये ହେଇଗଲା, suppose ये जो dust, जो माने dust allergy, actually dust mite ରହିଛି ସେ dust ରେ, ତ ତମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ cobweb ଇଏ କରୁଛ ନା ଘରେ ଧୂଳି ଝାଡୁଛ ବା cobweb ଝାଡୁଛ, ସେତେବେଳେ ଜଣ ଜଣଙ୍କର they are hypersensitive. So this cobweb, they act as an antigen, and when they enter into the body, they provoke certain reactions. If the reaction occurs within minutes of exposure to parasitic antigen, that causes type 1 hypersensitivity. Example होची ground itch in hookworm infection. Hookworm सदाबेले गोड़ तଳେ ତ ସେଟା ସାଙ୍ଗେ ସାଙ୍ଗେ କୁଣ୍ଡେଇ ହବ, so that is called ground itch, that type 1 hypersensitivity. Then Loeffler syndrome जोटा कहिथि, Loeffler's, when the eosinophil builds up in the lung tissue, it is very difficult for them to breathe. तो ସେତେବେଳେ wheezing ହବ, ଜୋରରେ ନିଶ୍ୱାସ ନେବେ, spasm develop ହେଇଯିବ inside the larynx and the windpipe, so they feel very difficult to breathe. ତାକୁ କୁହାଯାଏ Loeffler syndrome. It is a type 1 hypersensitivity. Type 1 hypersensitivity is due to the release of immunoglobulin E mediated allergic response. Type 2 hypersensitivity होची mediated by immunoglobulin G and M antibodies. ସବୁବେଳେ ଦେଖିବ antibody kaiki involved hochi. Antibody will make their entry only in the presence of antigen. So if in this type 1 hypersensitivity immunoglobulin E appears in the blood, then definitely some foreign antigen has entered in the form of pathogen or somebody. Similarly, type 2 sensitivity, immunoglobulin G and M, they appear under against certain pathogenic antigens. So the example is anemia in malaria and black water fever following quinine therapy in malaria. So it is an antibody mediated destruction of parasitic cell occurs either by activation of the complement system or by the activation of the natural killer cells. So these reactions are mediated by immunoglobulin G and immunoglobulin M antibodies produced against the surface antigen of the parasite. So these are antibody mediated destruction of parasitic cells by natural killer cells. जो T cells कथा कहती, by activation of the complement system. The complement system होची कौन, immunologic reaction रे the involvement of certain proteins, they bring about a cascade reaction, thereby destroying or suppressing the immunogenic response of the antigen. So killing of helminth parasite by natural killer cells, these are mediated by immunoglobulin. So type 2 sensitivity. Type 3 hypersensitivity reaction, circulatory antibodies bind to parasitic antigens and form immune complex. So semanka antibody ro kamo hochi kon, they will bind. So antigen antibody antibody specific antibody ame kahi koche, all antibody will not fight against all antigen. Specific antigen will evoke the production of specific antibody. So in a specific circulating antibody, it will projected against a specific antigen present on the surface of a specific pathogen. They will bind to it, they will attach to it to form a complex, immune complex. This type of hypersensitivity, tapar jo body re response achibo taku kaje type 3 hypersensitivity. These immune complexes get deposited in various tissue of the host and they attract the neutrophils to the site. Neutrophils are natural phagocytic cells. ତାକୁ attract କରିବେ, ସେମାନେ ଯାଇକି ସେଠି ତାକୁ phagocytose କରିବେ. So neophrotic syndrome, immune complex were deposited in onchocerciasis and African trypanosomiasis. ये सब infection रे type 3 sensitivity देखा जाए. And type 4 होची when delayed type sensitivity, it is mediated by T cell mediated hypersensitivity sensitivity. So delayed type माने थोड़े exposure है गले जोटा reaction है गला, subsequent exposure है गले to the parasitic antigen. A variety of cytokines are secreted by the previously sensitized T helper cell. आगुरु हेल्पर सेल ता सेंसिटाइज हेची, मेमोरी सेल द्वारा सेंसिटाइज हेची, दे अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट टाइप ऑफ इन्फेक्शन. सब्सिक्वेंटली जदि सब्सिक्वेंट एक्सपोजर हे गला, इन्फेक्शन हे गला सेम टाइप रो एंटीजन, सेठी जो hyper sensitivity reaction, that is called type 4. So variety of cytokines are secreted by mostly the pathogen is removed rapidly, कारण बहुत तुरंत बहुत quickly सेटाको सेमाने respond करती, and the pathogen are removed from the system with little tissue damage and no clinical symptoms is observed. Now self defense, immune evasion. Immune evasion by evasion by parasites. Immune evasion means how the parasite से ताको counter करिवो, ताको लुचे दबो. Evasion ताको mock कर दबो, ताको mask कर दबो, कार host रो immune response ताको ये neutralize करिवो. Then only the parasite can survive in the host body. तो सेति में जेमती ताको evoke करिवो immune evasion, it is evaded by certain adaptation. ताको कदी immunological adaptation by the parasite. से adapt करिबा पे ताको कदी immunological adaptation. So one such immunological adaptation जो various means रे होची, any parasite generally amaro immunological response होची within 9 days. हैला, in the case of mammals 9 days रे fully effective immune response हे जिवा कथा. जो 9 days रे any parasite, if it persists for more than 9 days, 9 दिन परे मध्य रहिला, ता माने होस्ट रो इम्यून सिस्टम को से इवेट कर देला, न्यूट्रलाइज करिवार सारो सक्षम रहिछि. They are capable to neutralize the host immune system, avoid the host immune response. केमती avoid कला? There are antigenic variation, several blood-borne protozoan parasite. जो protozoan parasite which inhabit the blood tissue, हमें पढ़िबा next class रे. They use antigenic variation as an important strategy. What is antigenic variation? Variation कर दबो, different antigen कर दबो, से चिन्हु से आउ नुआ antigen हे जिवो. So blood stages of trypanosoma expresses high immunogenic antigens called variant specific glycoproteins. There are variations to glycoprotein in the form of antigen, in the form of glycoprotein molecules. There is a vast variation. So these VSG were variant specific glycoproteins or antigens enable the trypomastigote stage of trypanosoma to evade mammalian host immune system. Then सब stage रहता है, different stages रहती, they have different variation in their antigen. So गोटे ताको जेतोले जो mastigate stage रे host immune system चिनी परिबने, evade कर देला. Then masking antigenic disguise, बहुरूपी, several parasites cover themselves with the host like factors. तो host करिबो देने आम सेल एटा, ये बाहर सेल नो, बाहर फॉरेन ऑर्गेनिज्म नो, से ताको बहुरूपी करी ताको ये करे देबो, fully full कर देबो, so that the host immune system ताको recognize करि परिबो. So several parasites cover themselves with host like factor, that the host बुझिबो that this is our own cell. Then immunologically privileged type, many parasites evade the host immunity by residing in anatomical site that are केते गुडे पैरासाइट को जो साइट रे बॉडी रे रहिबे सेठी इम्यून सिस्टम काम करिवो नै, तो सेठी रक्षा पाई गेला. Plasmodium, for example, merozoite stage जो Plasmodium species form rosettes with an uninfected counterpart to escape the reaction with host antibodies. uninfected counterpart. The merozoites of Plasmodium, they form rosettes with an uninfected counterpart. Antigen develop करे नहीं. तो से रीजन रे एंटीजेनिक रेस्पॉन्स होस्ट रो हुए नहीं, सो इट अवॉइड्स. नले तो प्लाज्मोडियम जो malaria तो केबेठारु हमर वैक्सीन भारी जाइता. देन डिसरप्शन ऑफ द होस्ट इम्यून सिस्टम. होस्ट जो नेचुरल इम्यून सिस्टम बिल्डअप होइची ताको से डिस्ट्रॉय कर दो, डिसरप्ट कर दो, ताको फूल कर दो. They will not be able to identify the type of antigen. So parasite they modify or suppress the host immunological response. किछि समय पे suppress कर दो, suppress करके निजे ठिकाना स्थान रे चली गेला त छाड़ देला. So they will respond either to the antibody तयारी कर antibody खाइ दबो, नष्ट कर दबो. Digestion of the host antibody, antimicrobial peptides सब को नष्ट कर दबो. Then molecular mimicry. Mimicry means similar type of molecule. Molecular mimicry refers to the situation where parasite produce antigens that have structural similarity to the antigen of the host body. So, host body resistant mimicry करके antigen तैयारी करियो, host body भाइबो जे मो निजो सेल ताको मारिबो नै. It avoid the host immune system. And antigen capping. So antigen को घोड़ेई दबो. ये होची antigen capping और masking. जो our surface antigen roichi in the parasite, it gets covered by another molecule. That was a masking of the surface antigen. Surface antigen mask heigala pore no immune system can identify the antigen. Antigen to dekha jiboni au kon. When the antigen is not seen, how will they prepare the antibody against the antigen? So it is called masking. तापरे जो morphological adaptation हमारो degeneration of organs, organ दरकार नहीं, parasitic mode of life, digestive system दरकार नहीं, locomotory organ दरकार नहीं, sensory organ दरकार नहीं, तेमन तो protected ही करोइले, response दरकार नहीं. So there is a degeneration of the organ system. Nervous system दरकार नहीं, simplified ही गला. Rather नुआ system कौन develop कला for the attachment to remain in that particular position. They have developed hook-like structure, sucker-like structure present in case of the Tinea solium and in the Ascaris. तार sensory structure मध्ये रही to taste the type of food. So से गुड़ी को develop करी गला. Organs of locomotion ये गुड़ा सबू. Then specialization जो attainment of new organs, organs of attachment, protective covering, तापर capsule जो तो क्या protection by cuticle. So cuticle कौन करीबा? Suppose Tinea solium. कहीं कि हमारे host digestive enzyme तक तो digest करनी, because it is covered by a well protected cuticle to prevent the digestion by the host digestive enzymes. Then nutritional adaptation होची कौन? All the parasites they remain in a region where there is no oxygen. So anaerobic respiration of anaerobic respiration रे the digestive enzymes they will digest monosaccharide, amino acid and fatty acid to produce the energy or ATP molecule. तापरे जेतिके ATP molecule they are sufficient for them कारण metabolic basal metabolism टा rate टा बहुत कम रहता है सेमानकर. So they produce only 6 ATP molecules from one molecule of glucose, I think. Then life cycle adaptation रे होची कोन बहुत गुडे larval stages गुडी they produce many larval stages through asexual multiplication. एमती की Fasciole hepatica Miracidium larva 5 larval stages, and in each larval stage semanakar जो ये cells रही थी ना the cells store है कि रही थी, they give rise to more number of larvae. माने one larva will not first larval stage will give rise to a number of second larval stage, and each of the second larval stage will give rise to more number of third larval stage. In this way, in each larval stage, the number of larval stages greatly increases. आपको कहते हैं life cycle adaptation. So in cestode 1 to 3 host may occur. Life cycle is simple in case of Turbellaria, and in nematodes there may be often 1 or 2 a series of asexual reproduction which increases the number of larval stages or number of progeny is seen in these animals as a life cycle adaptation, and ସବୁଠାରୁ greater adaptation hochi the presence of hermaphroditism, where the continuous our maturation darkar nahi. Hermaphrodite means they will continually bring about reproduction. So hermaphroditism and parthenogenesis are more common in parasite, and that that results in continuous reproduction throughout the life. So reproductive capacities are enhanced by sexual reproduction and the hermaphroditism. And biochemical adaptation, as I have told you, biochemical adaptation hochi their adaptation, the TCA जो modification, TCA जो metabolism hochi, they have low ATP production. Only 6 ATP per mole of glucose is produced instead of 36 in case of aerobic tissue. ताकू compensate केमती करिवो? There is an increased glucose utilization. अधिकରୁ ଅଧିକ ଗ୍ଲୁକୋଜ ୟୁଟିଲାଇଜ କରିବ ଆଉ ତାପରେ ତାର ଯୋଉ metabolic basic basal metabolic rate BMR is very less than that of human being and other animal which are very active, which are free living. So for a low basal metabolism, so less amount of ATP is required, so which can be substantiated by very less amount of ATP production. So so we have completed this unit 1 and unit 1, 2, 3. So tomorrow we'll complete the at least block 2. We have the blood parasites. We'll complete definitely the blood parasite, and if time permits, we'll move on to the next unit 8. So any doubts you can raise, or any modification in my way of teaching, you can feel free to tell me. Shall we shut down?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We'll meet tomorrow at 5:25.
Yes, sir. Thank you.